Leaders and advocacy organizations from Albania, American, Bosnian American and Montenegrin American communities have called on the U.S. to commit to a stronger presence in the Western Balkan region amid growing militancy of the government of Serbia. In an open letter addressed to the U.S. Senate and House Committees on Foreign Relations, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, the signatories expressed alarm about what it called Serbia's growing aggression towards Kosovo, but also increasingly towards Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro for that matter. Joining me in the studio today is research assistant and political scientist, Mr. Edem Ozbek. Hello, sir. Thanks for joining us here live in the studio. There seems to be a lot going on in the West Balkans right now. What is this? Is this a sudden threat on Bosnia? And why is there a threat on Bosnia?
Well, I think that it is not sudden threat. You know, for past 26 years since Dayton Agreement, we have ongoing political issues in Bosnia, and this is the biggest one of them right now that we are having in couple last months in Bosnia. There are a couple of reasons why Bosnia is under the threat right now. First one is, of course, Dayton Agreement that gave same political power to three nations in Bosnia, to Bosniaks, Croats and Serbs, even though that Bosniaks are 53% of population, you know.
Right.
So first thing is injustice and conflict of interests, you know. The second reason is threat from the east, from Serbia, who is supported by Russia. So we actually have clash between Russia and NATO in Balkans, and both of them are trying to gain some of their interests there. So that's the main two reasons why Bosnia is under threat now.
Okay. So is it the Russians that are backing the Serbians? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Bosnian Serbs are backed by Russia and Serbia, mainly. Okay. And Serbia, Republic of Serbia, is backed by Russia. So I think Bosnian Serbs, they would not be able to install any political crisis in Bosnia without support of course, Serbia and Russia, because they don't have any other allies right now.
Right, and the EU, what kind of role are they playing?
Well, EU, you know, it's partners that cannot be relied on. You know, Bosniak politicians, they cannot rely on EU. You know, some EU countries, they are closer to Russia than to ideology of Europe, to liberalism, you know. Also, there is high instability in Europe. One member left the European Union. They cannot come to agreement about anything almost. You know, in 1990s, Europe had 7 or 8 members, and they could not help Bosnia in 1990s. They could not come to agreement. Now they have 27, 28 members, and how can we expect them to come to some agreement now? So that's why we cannot rely on them.
Okay. So when we look at when the war ended in the 90s, and it was divided into 3 segments, but you're saying that 53% of the population is Bosnian, so a majority. Is it a coalition between those 3 segments?
In order to form government, you have to have coalition between them, because each and every side, they have third of political power. So in order to form parliament, they have to be in coalition. You know, the leading Bosniak party, the leading Croat party, and the leading Serb party, they must form coalition. But this coalition is not a coalition that you would imagine as some normal political coalition. This is the coalition where 2 sides, Serbian side has separatist interests, and the coalition where the Croat side, they have interest of forming another entity in Bosnia that would be a Croat-dominated entity. And the third side, of course, are Bosniaks, who are having interest of progress of the state. But they are not powerful. You know, with third of the political power, you cannot gain much.
So the Bosnians, so are the Croats and the Serbs, have they joined forces inside Parliament? Are they voting against the Bosniaks? Is that how it works, or
yes,
is it more? I know. Is it more to do with protests on the streets?
They do. They join forces in Parliament against Bosnia.
Okay.
They join forces for the interest of their countries. You know, they don't see Bosnia as their country. They see Croatia as their country, and they see Serbia as their country. So they are working for the interest of neighboring countries.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So recently, President Erdogan, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and Bekir Izetbegovic, I beg your pardon, met. I think that was yesterday.
Yes.
What sort of support do you think the Bosnians are looking from the Turkish people?
Well, I think Bosniak as nations, I believe that the main partner for them is Turkey. The most reliable partner is Turkey. And I think this conversation went along these lines. President Izetbegovic, president of the biggest Bosniak political party, came to let the President Erdogan know about political situation in Bosnia. He tried to gain some bigger support from Turkey, of course. Turkish support is very big now. Mm-hmm. It's the main support that Bosnia has. But we might need some other support in the near future. You know, the situation is highly unstable. Mm-hmm. The report of High Representative of United Nations said that we can have conflicts soon in Bosnia.
What was that about? I mean, that report was released, I think, today or yesterday. I mean, that shows that something is about to go very, very wrong in that part of the world, in Bosnia. I mean, is it something that we need to be afraid of? Is it something that the people of the country need to be afraid of? Could everything go wrong quickly?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Political situation is unstable. And what High Representative wrote in his report is exactly this. If United Nations will not react, something can go wrong very quickly. You know, West is not decisive. West is, we can say, a reactive force. It's not proactive force, while Russia is very aggressive in its politics. So what High Representative said is that you must react now, while it is not too late.
What can they do right now, before it, I mean, it's like saying, trying to catch a murderer before he commits the murder. What can they do? I mean, do they have any influence? Can they encourage them people to do what?
Yes, the first things are political sanctions. Okay. You know, Bosnian Serb leader Milorad Dodik, he already has some sanctions imposed on him by the United States. He cannot enter the United States. So imagine you have member of presidency and he cannot enter the biggest political power in the world. Mm-hmm. What they can do, European Union can also impose sanctions on him and on the leaders who are alongside with him. That's the first thing. Second thing is to show more decisiveness by putting more forces to Bosnia. You know, European forces, they have mandate in Bosnia, but they are not numerous. I think there is not more than 800 of them in Bosnia right now. If they can increase number of their forces in Bosnia, it can be good. They must be located in Brčko district. It is part of Bosnia that separates Republika Srpska on two parts, and they must be located on a border with Serbia, because as we see, all problems that are in Bosnia, they are actually coming from Serbia and Russia.
And do the Serbians have troops on their side of the fence right now?
They don't, okay. Because they don't need
They have Russia behind them anyway.
They have Russia. They have much more powerful military. You know, 10 times powerful military than Bosnian or more. Okay. Because, you know, same as everything in Bosnia, military is blocked from making significant progress because you need to vote for budget. Sure. You cannot vote for budget if you have Serbian veto.
Right.
So that's the problem. Yeah.
Right. So they've been purposely kept small, so they can't get bigger. Well, if Turkey gets involved, or if the United States gets involved, or NATO gets involved, are they likely to put troops on the ground in Bosnia as a deterrent?
Yes, I think. They are aware that they must do this. If we will have more problems, they will definitely do this. But what I'm suggesting, what many political analysts are suggesting, is that Bosnia should be member of NATO. When it is member of NATO, then it is late for Russia to act against NATO member. It is dangerous. You know, you do not act against NATO. But this is also, you know, some political process that is being slowed down in Bosnia. We applied for membership, And I'm hoping, that in the middle of this crisis, that NATO will realize that we should accept Bosnia to the NATO urgently.
But becoming a NATO member isn't something that happens overnight.
Of course, we are in this process.
Right.
We are in this process for a decade now.
Yeah.
We are trying to fulfill goals that NATO is putting in front of us, and we are doing this.
And are you still far away from achieving all those goals, or is it around the corner?
We are not far, I think. What we need is more help. We need more pressure on Serbian politicians in order to fulfill all goals. But I think if NATO wants to accept Bosnia, it can do it very quickly, in a few months.
So let's take a look at, if we look at what's happening now, right now, if we just talk more about what's happening now. I mean, in Bosnia now, are there any, other than Turkey supporting the country, are there any other countries that support Bosnia?
There are some Muslim countries like Qatar. Qatar recently invest in Bosnian arms production, which is very significant in these times. Today, our president, member of presidency to be precise, met with a president of Azerbaijan. I believe that he went there to get some political support as well. United States, I believe we have some support from Biden himself. He sent letter actually to Bosniaks, to Bosnian people. He sent letter when he came to the office saying that he stands alongside of Bosnia, but he's not showing that.
Sure.
So I cannot say that we have full support of United States.
Okay. So when we go forward, we've been hearing a lot about these tensions building up. Are we seeing any, are we seeing any incursions on borders? Is there anybody coming across the border from Serbia? Have we seen any aggressive movements, or is it just leaders talking and saying that, we're afraid?
Well, it is not just talks, unfortunately.
Tell me.
We had police drill in the mountain near Sarajevo. From this mountain, Sarajevo was under the siege for 425 days from this mountain. And they had police drill there with special forces of this smaller entity, where they basically said, look, we are here, we are ready to occupy Sarajevo once again. Also some special forces from Serbia crossed the border, as some rumors say. We are not sure about this, but there are some things happening. They tried to have a military drill with the Bosnian forces, but this was cancelled. Due to, they said, coronavirus. Our Ministry of Defense said due to coronavirus.
So the military can't fight when there's a coronavirus?
Yes, they cancelled the drill, but the real reason, of course, is the threat that is coming from Serbia. Yes.
Can you see it ending quickly, this thing, without it going to bloodshed?
This thing might end quickly. But problem is that these things are repeating constantly.
Right.
I grew up in Bosnia, and even I remember since my childhood having numerous political crises. And what these political crises do, they slow the progress of country. They refuse investors that someone would like to invest. I talked with investors, and they told me, the situation in Bosnia is very bad for investing there. We don't want to lose our money. So these political crises, even if this one will end, next one will come definitely. So what we need to do is we need to have some, international talks about Bosnia, international conference that would solve these issues and that would take the leverages from those politicians who are trying to slow things down. No one should have right to have veto power on every decision.
All right.
If it is going against your national interests, okay, you have veto power. But if it is going against, Bosnia needed to go to Expo to United Emirates recently, and they blocked this. Why? Is it against your national interest? No. So these leverages should be taken.
So do some things in the Constitution need to change?
Yes, Constitution needs urgent change. We need to stop those negative influence in parliament via constitutions. And it is not possible to change it within Bosnia, because you need to vote for it. You need to vote for it in parliament, and you don't have enough hands, obviously. So I think international conference is a must, actually. Yeah.
If you could look forward, I mean, you're a Bosnian yourself, if you could look forward into the future, how would you like to see the country run? I mean, what's the most ideal parliamentary situation?
Well, I would like to see it as every other country, with citizen rights, not with national rights. For example, now, if you have Bosnian citizenship, let's say as Turk, you are not able to candidate in Bosnia. Why? Because you do not belong to these three nationalities, three nation people. We have discrimination in Bosnia. What we must do, we must have normal system that would enable everyone, no matter who you are. You can come from wherever you want. You can be a minority. You can be, for example, Jewish minority in Bosnia. It's very old minority, hundreds of years old in Bosnia. Sephards, they do not have right to candidate. And European Court for Human Rights, they said that you must solve this via changing electoral law, via changing constitutions. So if we will follow European Court for Human Rights, we must change our constitution.
So there was this High Commission report that came out. We talked about it briefly a second ago. What did that report detail?
It did not detail very much. Political crisis started when the United Nations imposed a law on Bosnia to stop denial of genocide. And what Serbs said, because you are stopping me from denial of genocide, you are stopping me from glorifying those criminals who committed it, now I will block state institutions. And because of this is how it started. Political crisis got deepened, and they threatened by establishing paramilitary forces. So this is the greatest threat that we have. This report says they are getting ready to establish these forces, and it's urgent. It needs to be stopped right now. And today I think they should vote for extension of mandate of European forces in Bosnia.
So there are European forces now?
Yes, but a couple of hundreds of them. They are not that powerful, but still, they are significant in Bosnia.
And I believe Russia and China are against this, the building of European forces in Bosnia?
I believe they are. They were against appointing of High Representative to Bosnia, Christian Schmidt. They voted against this. So, as I said, they are trying to get some of their interests there. Actually, I don't think that they have so many interests, but the thing is that they want to compete with USA and European Union on Bosnian forces, on the count of Bosnian people. We are just being victim of some, bigger game.
How have the people, I mean, we always talk about the politicians, we always talk about who should talk about what, who should say what, but how the local press, perhaps that doesn't reach the international community, how have they reported on it? Do they want change as well? Are they afraid?
They do. People are enough of these conditions in Bosnia. People are leaving Bosnia. Young people, as myself, we are going somewhere else for education, for jobs, because there is no prosperity. And people of Bosnia, especially Bosniaks, we love our country, and we want to see changes within the country, and we are afraid for our country, for what can happen. We are the side, Bosniaks, we are the side who survived genocide in Srebrenica. More than 8,000 people were killed just in one small town, So because of that, we don't want to see these things again. We must be prepared for it. As it will happen tomorrow, but we must count on the future. We must live, and it is very hard to live. Toxic environment is in Bosnia now when it comes to politics. So yes, the young people especially, they would like to see some prosperity, and they would, I believe, like to go back to their homes, from abroad. We have a huge diaspora Actually, we have more Bosniaks living out of Bosnia than in Bosnia.
Wow.
Yes.
That is crazy. All right, so, I mean, these tensions, as I said, that they seem to be escalating, but there is a way to de-escalate them. We talked about that. We talked about perhaps a new form of a system that could change the way things are managed. Final question: if we can, if the international community does need to get involved, what do they need to do, and which is the governing power to do this?
That's a tough question. You can never know who is the real partner to talk with, because you have China now that is emerging very, very quickly. You have Russia that is being stronger and stronger when it comes to military. It's getting close to United States. But I think we must turn to the West. We must try to become a member of NATO. And many politicians, I talked with ex-president of Bosnia and Herzegovina. He was a Ministry of Defense during the war. And he believes that, in order to stop these atrocities in Bosnia, in order to have change in Bosnia, first step is being accepted to NATO. So I think first address is NATO. Then we can talk, about European Union. It's not that urgent to become member of European Union, but NATO is something.
Do you want to be a member of the European Union? People are leaving.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Yes, I'm not sure how good it can be for Bosnia and Herzegovina, because it would just open channels furthermore, to young people to go and to leave Bosnia. And this is actually one of the biggest issues that we are facing now. In last 6 months or in last 1 year, I'm not sure, 80,000 young people left Bosnia.
Wow.
And it's a small country, it has a population of 3.5 million.
Indeed. Adam, thank you so much for joining me here today on A News. Let's hope that without further escalation and without further tensions, things can indeed be sorted out quickly. Thank you for your time, sir.
We are all hoping for this. Indeed. Thank you for having me.
Just bear with me a second.